I never thought the man I loved would smile while destroying my life. The worst part wasn't that he cheated. It was that he looked relieved when he finally walked away. That smile stayed in my mind for months. And he had no idea. The woman he thought was worthless owned everything he had been trying so hard to impress. If you're wondering how someone can lose everything because of one terrible decision, this is my story. I still remember the exact sound of the front door clicking shut. It wasn't slammed. It wasn't rushed. It was just a cold, deliberate click. David didn't even look me in the eye. He just looked down at my worn-out shoes, then at our cramped, tiny apartment, and he said, "I'm tired of being poor, Sarah. I deserve a life of luxury, and you just can't give that to me." He packed his bags and walked straight into the arms of Juliana Vance, the billionaire heiress to Vance Enterprises. But David made one fatal mistake. He didn't know who actually owned that empire. He had no clue. It belonged to me. For 7 long years, I worked 3 jobs. I sacrificed everything while David sat at home. He dreamed of a big break, but never actually worked for it. I even skipped meals just so he could buy expensive suits for interviews. Interviews he would inevitably fail. I gave him my youth. I gave him my tears, and every ounce of love I had in my soul. But to him, I was just a stepping stone. The night he left, he didn't just break my heart. He tried to shatter my dignity. He told me I was born to be ordinary, a nobody who would always drown in debt. The utter contempt in his voice burned a fire deep inside me. As his car drove away into the night, I didn't cry. Instead, I sat on the cold kitchen floor, and I pulled out a dusty manila envelope hidden at the bottom of our pantry. Inside were the legal documents for Vanguard Holdings, the anonymous parent company that owned 60% of Vance Enterprises. Years ago, my grandfather left me the entire empire. He lived like a pauper, but he thought like a genius. The inheritance came with a strict anonymity clause, and I kept it a secret on purpose. I wanted to build a real life with David. A life based on love, not money. I wanted to see if he loved me for who I was. He failed the test. Within 2 short weeks, David's face was everywhere. He was splashed across every luxury lifestyle magazine, draped on the arm of Juliana Vance, looking smug in a tuxedo I could have bought 10,000 times over. Juliana was notorious for her absolute cruelty. She treated her employees like disposable trash, and she flaunted wealth she had never earned. David thought he had climbed to the very top of the world. He even started sending me mocking text messages, offering to pay for my groceries, out of pity. Every message was a dagger. But instead of crying, I began to plan. I called an emergency meeting with the Vanguard Board of Directors. It was time for the ghost owner to step into the light. For years, Juliana's father had been running the company into the ground, using our secret funding to cover up massive corporate fraud. They thought their anonymous investor was completely clueless. When I walked into that ultra-modern penthouse boardroom, wearing a tailored black suit, the board members actually laughed. They assumed I was just a secretary who had lost her way. Then, I laid the original corporate charter on the mahogany table. The laughter died instantly. The CEO's face turned completely white. I didn't raise my voice. I spoke in a calm, lethal whisper. I told them that effective immediately, I was freezing all luxury allowances. I ordered an immediate audit of every single department and a full review of the employment of every executive, including Juliana Vance. For 7 years, I had learned how to survive on pennies while David took everything. Now, I was going to use that exact same survival instinct to dismantle their corrupt kingdom, brick by brick. A month later, I went to inspect one of our flagship jewelry boutiques in Manhattan, and, as fate would have it, David and Juliana walked right in. David was carrying her shopping bags like a glorified servant. He looked exhausted, but he was desperately trying to maintain that arrogant smile. When his eyes met mine, his jaw dropped. I was holding a $2 million diamond necklace, discussing its clarity with the store manager. David scoffed. He stepped forward with that familiar, patronizing smirk. "Sarah, what on earth are you doing here?" he sneered. He spoke loudly, ensuring the other elite shoppers could hear him. "Did you take a job here as a cleaning lady? Don't touch things you can't afford, Sarah. One scratch on that necklace and you'll be in debt for the next 3 lifetimes." Juliana chuckled right along with him, looking at me with pure disgust. "Is this the pathetic ex-wife you told me about, darling?" she asked. Then she turned to the staff. "Security, please remove this woman. She's ruining the atmosphere." The store manager looked absolutely horrified. He stepped directly between us, but the manager didn't look at me. He turned toward Juliana. "Ma'am," the manager said, his voice trembling, "I suggest you apologize immediately." David laughed out loud. "Apologize to her? Do you know who this is?" "This is Juliana Vance. Her family owns this entire building." I gently set the diamond necklace down. I looked David dead in the eye, and I smiled. "They used to, David, but your new girlfriend's family defaulted on their Vanguard loan this morning. I bought the building, I bought the store, and I own the very chair you're standing next to." David's laugh caught in his throat. Juliana gasped, her face flushing a furious shade of red. "You're psychotic," she screamed, pulling out her phone. "I'm calling my father right now to have you ruined." She dialed with shaking hands. She put the call on speakerphone to try and humiliate me, but when her father answered, ADSN, his voice wasn't powerful. It sounded broken, frantic, and utterly defeated. "Juliana, wherever you are, stop spending money," he whispered. "Vanguard Holdings just initiated a hostile takeover. We lost everything. We are completely wiped out." The silence in that boutique was suffocating. Juliana dropped her phone. The screen shattered into pieces on the marble floor. David just stared at me. His eyes darted from my expensive suit to the terrified, pale face of his billionaire girlfriend. The realization was hitting him like a physical blow. The woman he had discarded as worthless, the woman he mocked for being poor, was the apex predator holding the strings to his entire new life. No, this is a mistake," David stammered. He took a slow step toward me, his voice losing all its edge. "Sarah, honey, you couldn't." "How?" I stepped back. 2 massive security guards immediately moved in front of me. "It's Miss Vanguard to you, David," I said coldly. Juliana looked at David, then at me, realizing she had been completely outmaneuvered. She grabbed David's arm, but he violently pulled away from her. His eyes were locked on me. filled with a disgusting mixture of fear and sudden, sickening regret. That night, I arrived at my new penthouse apartment, only to find David waiting by the lobby doors. The expensive suit he wore looked crumpled and stained. The arrogance was completely gone, replaced by the desperate look of a dog begging for scraps. As my security team moved to block him, I held up my hand. David fell to his knees, right there on the cold pavement. "Sarah, please," he wept, tears streaming down his face. "I made a mistake. Juliana forced me to leave. She manipulated me. I never stopped loving you, Sarah. Please, just give me another chance." I looked down at the man who had broken my heart, the man who left me on a kitchen floor because he thought I wasn't enough. And you know what? I felt no anger. I felt no sadness. I only felt an incredible, liberating emptiness. "You didn't make a mistake, David," I said softly. The cold wind caught my hair. "You showed me exactly who you are. You loved the money, not me. And now, you have neither." I turned around and walked past him into the lobby, leaving him kneeling alone in the dark. Within 3 months, Juliana and her father were facing federal charges. Their names were dragged through the mud for corporate embezzlement. David was left completely penniless. He couldn't find a job anywhere, because his reputation as a gold-digging trader had ruined him in every elite circle. He went from dreaming of a life of luxury to working the graveyard shift at a local gas station, barely making enough to survive in the city he tried so hard to conquer. As for me, I didn't use my wealth to buy yachts or mansions. I used Vanguard's billions to fund shelters for women, to create scholarships for young girls who were told they would never amount to anything. Every morning, I look out over the city from my office window, knowing one beautiful truth. True power isn't about the money in your bank account. It's about the strength in your soul. David tried to bury me, but he didn't realize I was a seed, and from the very dirt he left me in, I built an empire